There are actually people out there who legitimately believe that the Earth is flat. Like, the argument is that these sunbeams, these God rays, are converging at a point that couldn't possibly be 90 million miles away. For the record, they're crepuscular rays, and they're the result of sunlight beaming through the atmosphere of the Earth. Think, for example, you're blowing like some sweet-ass vape in your room, and sunbeams are showing directly through it. You can see them clearly. Oh, damn, yo, that's a tank as fuck. It's more or less the same thing, except instead of 128 milligram nicotine juice, it's like oxygen or something. Here's the thing, right? These arguments aren't taking into consideration perspective and parallax. Perspective is basically the idea that objects you're looking at converge towards a vanishing point. Parallax is the idea that objects that are further away seem to move slower than objects that are closer if the viewer is in motion. Or the observer. A viewer, observer, I'm not a scientist, what do you want? So in the case of the sun is 90 million miles away, and the diameter of the sun is 865,000 miles. So an observer on Earth, be it in a plane, in a car, walking down the street, no matter what, the sun is never gonna appear to be moving at all. But in the case of perspective, the argument is if the sun is that far away and that big, all of the crepuscular rays would be parallel straight up and down with one another. Alright, so listen up. I didn't bust my ass in drawing class drawing things in 2-point perspective and freehanding literally hundreds of cubes to be told that everything I know about perspective is not true. In order for the sun rays to be straight up and down in parallel, 2 criteria need to be met. A, the sun would have to be directly overhead. B, the observer's point of view would have to be 90 degrees perpendicular to the sunbeams. In order for lines to be straight up and down parallel like that, the observer would have to be looking at them in a 2-point perspective, and the only way to achieve that is to have a 90-degree perpendicular point of view. Once that 90 degrees becomes something else, the sunbeams would start converging. Are you with me? If not, I got your back, homie. Here's some garbage I whipped up in Blender. I'm gonna put this Blender source file in the description, so just go download Blender. It's literally free. Install it, open the source file, you'll see it. It's no tricks, no behind the scenes CGI fakeetry or anything. Fakeetry. So the way I have this set up is I have a cube that catches light from a light source and creates beams if anything obstructs that light. I'm using a sun lamp, which is way more unrealistic than the actual sun, because instead of being 90 million miles away, the sun lamp is literally infinity away. I mean, don't get me wrong, 90 million miles away is pretty huge, but infinity is pretty huge too. It basically says no matter what, all shadows will be cast parallel with one another. But regardless, I'm gonna get the crepuscular rays to act exactly as they do from a sun that could only be 2 miles up in the sky or whatever. Okay, so this first angle, the sun is pointing directly downwards, like 0, 0, 0 rotation, just straight downwards. And the camera's point of view is 90 degrees perpendicular. And big surprise, all the beams are parallel. Whoa, did you see that? Like, the angle changed and stuff. Okay, so I've raised the camera and I've tilted it to look downwards, and all the beams are converging downwards. With a simple rotation of the camera, I've already got the lines converging. But keep in mind that the sun being directly overhead is also an extremely unlikely phenomenon, unless you're in some sacred part of the globe on the equator, on the very specific hour of a very specific day of the year, or something, I don't know. What do you think, I'm a scientist or something? So let's rotate the light and see what happens. Okay, that's interesting. That looks a little bit more realistic, wouldn't you say? That looks like something you see every day of your life. So I want to show you what this looks like from kind of a ground point of view, looking towards the sun, towards the point of light in the sky. Oh man, holy shug night, dude. All these lines are converging. That couldn't possibly be an infinity away light source, could it? Yes, it is, and the reason it's happening is because if you look directly at a light source, the beams surround you. They are looking directly at you, and you're looking directly at it. Think you're in the shower or something, right? And you look directly at the faucet, well, at least at the point where the water isn't too hard because your eyes would die or something. And all the little water droplets kind of like go around your point of view. It doesn't matter if they're spraying out or if they're going directly parallel with one another. From your point of view, they're going around your eyeball, okay? So that's basically my 2 cents on the whole sunbeams argument, because like me, I like to think I have sort of a scientific mind. I'm skeptical of things. I don't take things at face value. If I want to know more about something, I'll research it and I'll test what I can. I mean, I can't go to Antarctica. I can't climb the Antarctic wall. I can't fall off the edge of the earth. Neither can you. I can't build myself a space shuttle and go to space and observe the curvature of the earth, and neither can you. I don't have an electron microscope. I can't watch particles be both particles and waves, and neither can you. Well, I mean, unless you're actually a scientist, in which case, what are you doing wasting your time on YouTube? Go earn a Nobel Prize or something. But yeah, sunbeams, basic perspective, that's entirely testable. Just 3D software and some art knowledge. Like, if you're gonna make arguments like the sun is 4,000 miles away because of the sunbeams and how they converge, like, test it before you say that. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh, by the way, here's a picture I took in Cozumel of the sun literally sinking into the ocean, which I've also seen in Hawaii. Oh, and it was a full moon that night, and the moon literally rose as the sun set. It was pretty great. It was pretty beautiful. Sorry about the blurry photo. My camera's not. I'm not a photographer. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a photographer. You know what? I'm gonna go back to playing video games and being useless and not contributing to society before the crippling depression sets in. Peace.